Hey, so what is up guys? This is Pohdoh here, and this time I'm going to be giving you a Sin profile, and just let me just move. This is obviously an Order&Chaos head. This is going to be using their new updated Nick Judron's new updated talent calculator. So this is the spec that I would recommend for double DPS, not for with a healer. Do not run this with a healer. You're not going to do as well with a healer. I have another spec for healers, and for the most part, sins are actually decently complicated. A lot of the stuff here you see is matter of personal preference. You can do well. There are different choices you can pick. I actually really like this. Sins are actually probably the most difficult class to play right now, even more difficult and complicated than mages right now. As incredible as it sounds. And it really just comes down to personal preference. There's a lot of choices available if you're a Sin. If you're an archer, there's only one spec available for PvP and PvE, which really sucks. But for Sin, there is a lot of choices. And this is the build which commonly is referred to the pin feet build or a 2611 build. The reason why is that no matter what personal preference you pick, this is for when you want to run with double DPS, and there actually has, maybe saying like this spec looks terrible. Well, there actually has been a number of really good rangers that have gotten the 2600 rating, 2500 rating with with a pin feed spec. They do run with military monks, or they do run with either military monks, DPS warriors, and I think it's just those two. I don't think you can run it really efficiently with a mage, just because you don't have enough damage in order to kill a healer, fast enough. But this is primarily with a military monk, I believe. That's the one. That is the most successful comp I've seen so far. But my archer, my ranger knowledge is not nearly as good as my mage knowledge. So you take everything I say with a pinch of salt. I'm not claiming this is all true. This is just what I know about the class right now. And if you can prove me wrong with a well-reasoned argument, then power to you. Great job. You corrected me, and I am fully aware that some of the stuff I can be saying can be very easily disputable. But I'll try my best to keep this discussion as concise as possible while giving out as much information as you can. So first of all, you may be asking, why pin feet? Well, first of all, why assassins? Archers are so good. Why pick an assassin? Well, there's multiple reasons why. Is that one reason why just military monk DPS and military monk Sin is considered a somewhat decent comp, not the best comp by any chance. DPS or heal is probably still superior in many different ways if you have the gear. But one reason why this works over archer military monk is because of bruise, and bruise means you do 15% more damage, and also because Sins have much more control than archers. Archers basically only have pin feet, and that's pretty much their only control. Maybe a Vulsion shot for 3-second silence, but besides those two, that's pretty much it. They just do raw AoE damage, and in twos, raw AoE damage isn't as useful since there's only 2 people in general. But archers still are very good in PvP. Don't get me wrong; they're most likely much better than Sins. But this is just the reason why you would pick a Sin over an archer, in certain scenarios. And one is because they do melee damage, and two is because they have much better control. They have Shadow Blink, which is in many ways better than pin feet, just because it's instant and closes distance, and at the same time it could be used in conjunction with escape to allow for better kiting, and it's just more versatile than pin feet in general. Pin feet is just mainly used for 2 things: for sniping or for drawing, essentially. And Shadow Blink is just more versatile, it's more usable, it's much more skillful as well. They also have Cutthroat Silence, which can cause a silence for 3 seconds, I believe. Yeah, 3 seconds. Then they also have Smoke Bomb, which is a stun skill. If you guys didn't know, you can use Smoke Bomb, then you can use Shadow Strike for another additional stun. And then you also and then you also have pin feet. So you have a lot of control, and you also have defensive abilities with Rapid Step, with escape. And I've seen some people use Riptose. I'm not particularly too fond of it. I don't see how practical it can be, since 50% main hand damage isn't that much at all. Like, I mean, if you keep it in perspective, I think Dagger Stab does like 200%. So you're pretty much looking at maybe like 60% chance at like a 1000 or 1500 attack. 1500 attack. This is and it goes through armor calculations as well. I don't think it does magic damage, and overall I wouldn't prefer Reptose, but if you have a good argument for it, then go ahead. Let's see, what else is there? Yeah, once again, I'm gonna have to stop at the 10-minute mark because the Bandicam is gonna end it immediately. So, anyway, second question: why would you spec pin feet? And the reason why is because of two reasons. It's not only this causes a stun, which is by itself very useful for additional control, especially against heal teams, but also it causes an armor break decrease, 85%. And this is something that Michael, Mr. Besta app, or whatever you want to call him, figured out or confirmed with a screenshot. And this is also something that Crumbs told everyone about in the main board, was that you can get someone's armor down to 0%. And 0% armor, or not only 0%, you can get them down to negative armor, believe it or not. I'm not sure how much, you can get like negative 4% or like negative 5% with the S3 Sin bonus. But you have to keep in mind that some armor and no armor, there's a very big difference. I mean, the difference between a 30k armor and 10k armor is not that big, but then the difference between 5k armor and 0 armor is significant. So getting their armor down, those last 20%, is very, very important, and it leads to much more powerful damage, especially if you're running with a DPS warrior or a military monk, which already do superior damage compared to an assassin. So that's why Pin Feet is there. It's a very powerful control and defensive ability, and it also is a very, very powerful offensive ability. Because even if your health is low and you can't do any damage, or you're trying to kite away, just Pin Feet and then let your partner do a shit ton of damage and a shit ton of burst right there. And with a melee DPS and a military monk and a target with 0 armor, like, they go down really fast. Like healers, they'll go down in like 5 seconds, like easy peasy. So let's discuss about the choices that I made, and this obviously has I know some people are gonna be like, no, I came up with this spec first. Okay, yes, I know, there are a lot of people who claim to come up with this spec first. The first person I saw who was actually remotely successful with this was Crumbs. I know some of you guys are gonna be mad because I gave him credit for it, but in all honesty, he's the first person I saw using it regardless. So, and he might probably complain if I don't mention him at one point. I've seen some other sins. There's Brand and Affliction, which my archer partner he's used this here and there. Cookie, let's see, Darkness, one sin that's primarily archer, but I've seen him use sin here and there. And there's also there's also Oz that used it for a bit, but those are pretty much the only sins I saw using it. I'm sure there's more, I just didn't see them. So let's see, these three. The only reason you want paralyzing poison is because 4 out of 5 refine is pretty useless, since at 6% hit chance is already gonna, your poison hit chance is already gonna be 101%, so there's not really that much point in investing another point. So you might as well put paralyzing toxicity just because, like, why not? Like, just in case. Even though you're probably gonna be using acute poison. Sorry about that, because of assassin contract, but the options there just in case. And then you want Cutthroat obviously as an interrupt, but also so you can get apnea for the silence, which is very, very important against healers and even against mages here and there. Healers are your main issue as a sin. Even with max DPS, a lot of sins have some issues killing healers. It really is a very difficult and very very timing orientated thing for a sin to do well. You have to have really fast reactions in order to immediately interrupt those big heals. And then sneak attack, mainly because I don't prefer Reptose. This Dark Dweller is obviously useless because there's only there is no fear conditions left. But on Reptose, you could do it for the extra damage, but then it kind of brings into question like how much more damage are you gonna get from this? Because first of all, this is assuming it only works if people are attacking you first. In which case, if you're with a military monk, if you're with another DPS, then they're probably gonna go for them first. Not many people attack the Sin first, since they could just smoke bomb away and run away. So inherently, this isn't very useful, since it assumes that people are attacking you. And also, I prefer sneak attack because it is much more active, and you're gonna be. This is situational. Only in some matches people are gonna attack you. but in all matches, sneak attack is gonna be useful. Whether it's gonna be smoke bomb, where you're gonna be going to sneak immediately with smoke. All right, then sorry about that. Bandicam just ended, and I forgot about the time limit because I kind of got off. But anyways, yeah, that's. I mean, I hope you guys understand. Hopefully, the editing thing didn't cut off too early. But essentially, you can use this in every single match. This is a lot more versatile, and this is a lot more active. I really like active spells that, if you click, it's gonna happen. You don't need to depend on your opponent to do something in order for it to work. And that's the issue with Pohdoh, is that it assumes your opponent's gonna attack you. It assumes that it's gonna dodge in the first place, and it also assumes it's gonna get a 60% chance for only a 50% main hand damage weapon attack, and that goes through armor as well. So it's probably gonna do like 800 damage maybe. I may be wrong. Maybe it does magic damage. It does like 1500 or something, but I don't know. Either way, I don't really like the idea of Pohdoh, and even then, like at least this has. This spec isn't meant for offense in many ways. This isn't meant for support. Pin feed specifically shows that it's meant for support. And this is more of a support thing, which is that it also has this more support aspect, which is that it gives you more movement speed during sneak, so you don't move like a snail. And I think this is just sneak attack is just overall a little more useful than Pohdoh. But like I said, if you have a better argument, then go ahead and knock yourself out. And then there's Shadow Blink. Obviously, because if you don't have this, then you're no better than a military monk when it comes to catching up the archers, and it's just so useful. I mean, there is no reason why you should not spec Shadow Blink, especially with the 85% armor value decrease. And then Apnea for healers, for mages, specifically for healers, because I mean, if you don't get Apnea, then they'll just, Cutthroat just becomes so much less useful, since they'll just immediately start to recast it, and there's not really much you can do, especially just diminishing return. And then Keen Swing, the only reason I put 1 into it instead of putting back 1 point in sneak attack is because if you have no points into this, then you don't do any, how about this? If you put 1 point into it, even if it does 1 extra damage, the important part is that it attacks your opponents twice. That's the thing. It increases damage equal to 22% of your offhand weapon damage. It doesn't actually increase the damage of Shadow Strike. It makes it so Shadow Strike does offhand damage as well. So then you're gonna be doing main hand damage, and you're gonna be doing offhand damage. So it's gonna be 2 strikes with Shadow Strike. But then with no Keen Swing, it's only 1 strike, and the only issue with that is that it's way less damage because of acute poison. And how acute poison is that every single time you get a hit, there's a chance for a poison. So having a 1 point into this will increase your damage by a noticeable amount, just because there's an extra chance for poison to proc. And you will be using Shadow Strike often, not only for damage when you're running out of vigor, but also for Smoke Bomb stun, and just for sneak stun in general. So that's why I want Keen Swing. Hopefully that made a little bit of sense as well. You just want it so that you can get the extra poison proc, and you don't need 2 out of 5 Keen Swing, because it's 20% extra offhand damage, which isn't that much unless you're running dungeons or something. But let's see. But just the fact that it's there, it's the same thing with Stone Armor for mages, Stone Spike for mages, is that it just has to be there. It makes a very big difference that it's spec'd at all. So anyways, Deadly Haste, even though you're not doing full DPS, not completely dedicated for DPS, it still is very useful for the range and melee hit chance you don't want to be missing. That really sucks if you just randomly miss your pin feed or randomly missed your dagger stab. It just really sucks. So, the 9% extra hit chance, and also what can get wrong? What could be wrong with the 30% attack speed, which is just so much more poison damage? I would highly recommend getting Deadly Haste for many different reasons. Stun 3 seconds, obviously. There's no reason why you wouldn't. And then Smoke Bomb, this is probably one of the more preference thing, is that you can get Smoke Bomb healing, take off points from Impale, move a point from here to Impale, and you can just rearrange stuff here. But the reason why I would personally recommend Impale over Shadow Brace is that in Arena, your healing is decreased by 50%. So you are giving up 3 talent points, which could be used for Impale, which is not only improves your damage, but also significantly improves your vigor regeneration rate, which is still a problem with assassins if you're using control spells and using dagger stab and using all these damage dealing spells in a very short amount of time. Let's see. Essentially, this facilitates the support area, which is going to be 2 places, which is going to be interrupts and stuns, and also going to be for burst. This doesn't really help you as much. No, it's just like, I would recommend Shadow Brace for World PvP, but I mean, if you're running World PvP, then everything here would be different. I mean, you would obviously get 3 out of 3 deep sneak, and you also would not get pin feet because there's not really any point in World PvP, but essentially, I don't think it's worth the talent points just for like a 7% heal. And the reason why 7%, not 50%, is because all healing is decreased by 50% in arena. So even if you get 5 out of 5, and then even if you use Smoke Bomb, then Contract and Smoke Bomb, it's only 50% of your health back, which isn't that much. It's like maybe 3k extra. I mean, even then, that's not that much, because I mean, and it also assumes that they're going to be attacking you first as well. They're going to be attacking the Sin first, which doesn't always happen. Okay, then that's it. And then obviously Dagger Stab. There's no reason why not to. There's no reason not to get Dagger Stab. It's just such a great spell for Sins. Probably your only real damage spell for Sins. And then Rapid Step, obviously for the extra dodge chance. It's just very useful against this DPS warrior orientated meta. And on Deadly Poison, just because you need the extra points in order to get up the pin feet. Wound Infection is very, very useful for acute poison, and it just leads to a lot more damage. It makes up for a lot of the damage that you lost with reduced Impale and reduced Keen Swing. And this is just very important. 50% extra chance is just it just makes such a big difference in poison procs. And then Deadly Poison, this is just here just so you can reach pin feet. I mean, you don't want to. I don't see why you should put it in precise attacks, and Shadow Strike does so little damage to begin with. I mean, obviously not Split Shot. That's just a shit ton of vigor for no good reason. And then yeah. And then the bleeding condition doesn't really make a difference. You don't have Sharp Arrow, but regardless, I mean, it's just the best option available in order to get the pin feet, and pin feet already discussed why so good. So then, let's see, you can, oh yeah, that reminds me, you can run Archer Sin with this. The whole point of it is that the Archer does the damage while the Sin does the control, and it can work out. I can't say from experience how well it works out or not, but I know some people have been trying to make it work. And ultimately, regardless of how intuitive this is, how amazing or how terrible this is all going to be useless within the next couple updates, because we're getting a new talent tree for Rangers, just like we're getting a new talent tree for Mages. And the main reason why I wanted to show this off, just because I thought it was a really cool idea. One of the few times when something that looks good on paper actually works out really well in real life or in practice. And I just thought this was a very novel idea. Keep in mind that even if you spec this, you might do very bad with this, just because this is a spec that does not work if you're playing this casually. You have to be coordinated, you have to have a smart partner, you have to be geared, you have to be arena smart, essentially. You have to be coordinated to work well with this. The amount of damage you lose from this is pretty significant, and the main reason why this works is because it's a support, and there's no way you can get good support off unless you have good communication. So keep that in mind. Even if it does not work for you in arena, that might just be because you're not coordinated enough. This spec definitely works. 2611, the pin feed Sin spec, it definitely works. People have gotten higher arena ratings with this, but it really just depends up to the player. And Sin is one of the most skillful, if not the most skillful class to play right now. And there is a reason why many people don't like Sins right now. Is because Archers are so much easier and they do just as well, if not better, for a much less amount of effort. So I think I rambled on too much. I said I'd try to make this concise, but clearly I failed. But anyways, this is Pohdoh here. Tell me guys if you guys like this spec. Tell me guys if you found this useful or found this helpful, if you want to be an assassin, since there's not that many successful assassins around anymore. And anyways, hopefully Game Love makes a really good change so the assassins remain just as skillful, except a little more effective in PvP without an insane amount of coordination. So anyways, this is Pohdoh here. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.